Welcome everybody to part 2 of our seminar on decision making, Deciphering Indecisive. Today we're going to go over a few things. We're going to go over, first of all, a recap of what we talked about last time, and then we're going to finish what we didn't finish last time. Last time we talked about 3 of the 7 filters that almost every single excuse that we make of why we don't act when we have an opportunity, why we don't act in the face of opportunity. Most of those reasons fit into 7 categories. Last time we talked about 3 of them. This time we're going to talk about the final 4 of them. Before I do that, I would like to welcome you all to Inspiraction. What we're building here is a community of people who have big goals and are serious about achieving them. What we want to do here is we want to foster a community of people that set a goal, go off and achieve the goal, and give you the surroundings of people who are doing the exact same thing, and a lot of the times, people who can help connect you to the tools that you need to reach that goal. And while we're doing that, we're going to run events that can give you all the resources that you need in order to do that. So just sitting in this room with me, we have a bunch of people who are engineers, people who are physicists and interested in building things. We've got software people, we've got event planners, we've got people who are in sales, people who are in marketing, people who are in whatever the heck Shalom does. He does a lot of really, really interesting things. He starts startups. Today I want to start off with an island on a river that goes through Pennsylvania. It's near Harrisburg. Big river, longest river in the United States, on an island called the 3 Mile Island. The island is called that because it is, in fact, 3 miles long. In the early 1960s, some people decided that they wanted to build nuclear reactors on the island for nuclear energy. And they did that. Started work in you're familiar with the story. It looked like you were familiar with the story. Started work in the early 1960s. There were 2 reactors. Unit 1 was finished in the early 1970s. The Unit 2 was finished in 1978. Now, these reactors at the time were the biggest ones in the United States. We're talking about pre-Chernobyl, pre-Fukushima, pre any sort of nuclear meltdown. Nuclear energy was a new frontier, the way going forward for clean energy. And the United States was at the forefront of it all on 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. Okay, we're going to stop here in the story. I want to tell you what I want you guys to take out of this class. I want you to take out today that I want you to feel at the end of this class and to understand that you have the tools that you need in order to realize when you are at a point of opportunity and you don't act. You could act, but you don't act. Why don't you act? Recap from last time. Last time we talked about 3 different things. We talked about fear. Fear is the first one. We talked about how Kodak and their team of engineers created the digital camera, and the Kodak executives shut it down because they were scared it would take over their film and chemical business. They were worried it was going to take over the business. In the end, it did. In 2011, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That's the first one, fear. We are scared of potential outcomes. We are scared of succeeding. We are scared of failure. We are scared of what other people might think. That's number 1. Number 2 is friction. This is the common cause, laziness. We talked about how Amazon got sued in 2023 by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, for $2.5 billion, largest fine in FTC history, because they used something called dark patterns to make it very, very difficult to unsubscribe from Amazon Prime. They say all press is good press. This press cost them $2.5 billion. Ouch. And so we talked about that. Friction. What's friction? Friction is we are where we are. We have a goal. We want to do that goal. We want to go for a run, but it's early in the morning. It's cold. I have to get my shoes on. I have to drink a cup of coffee. That's just a lot of things I have to do before I can actually go on my run. Therefore, I'm lazy. There's too much psychological friction. That's what it's called, shortened to friction. There's too much friction between where I am and where I want to be. For Amazon Prime subscribers, there was It took 14 clicks to unsubscribe from Amazon Prime. Normally, if you want to unsubscribe from a subscription that you have online, how many clicks does it take? I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You click the unsubscribe button. They say, "Are you sure you want to go? We're so sorry to see you go." And then you click unsubscribe, and that's it. You're done. No more subscription. Amazon, they took you to 4 different web pages, asked you, "Are you sure?" about 8 different times. 14 clicks later, only then were you unsubscribed, and they made it really small and hard to see. So where you were as someone who wanted to unsubscribe from Amazon Prime and the unsubscribing, there was a lot of psychological friction, and most people were like, okay, I can't figure this out. I'm just gonna keep paying for Prime, I guess. $2.5 billion later, that's not a thing anymore. So we talked about number 1, fear. Number 2, friction. Number 3, the third thing that we talked about yesterday, is lack of perceived efficacy. I'm short to efficacy. What does that mean? That means that I don't believe that I will succeed in this endeavor, or alternatively, I don't believe that this endeavor will succeed. I believe I can do it really well, but I think it's a stupid idea, frankly. So what we talked about yesterday, last week, we talked about George Dantzig, a college student who invented the simplex method, linear programming, one of the most widely used math statistics models today. And what he did is he came into classroom, saw 2 problems on the board, thought they were homework. Turns out they weren't homework. They were 2 of the most complicated statistics theories that were thought to be impossible to solve, unsolvable, and he, didn't know that because he was late to class, and he wrote them down, thought they were homework, and he thought it was just difficult homework, and he solved them. And his professor came running to his house on a weekend, 6 weeks later, and was like, "You have no idea what you just did. You just solved 2 of the most complicated statistic models in history." And now he's famous, and now he gives talks because he did that. So that's number 3, efficacy. Number 1, we have fear. We're scared of potential outcomes, or we're scared of what people will think of us. Number 2, we have friction. There's too many steps between where I am and where I want to be. And number 3 is efficacy. I don't believe that I will succeed, or I don't believe that my idea will succeed. I don't think my goal is actually a good goal to come to fruition. Okay, so where are we going with 3 Mile Island? Why are we sitting here talking about 3 Mile Island? Well, a year after they opened up the facilities on the island, something happened. What happened was maybe the 6th worst nuclear failure in history, with the potential to be worse than Chernobyl or Fukushima, which were, you can't go to Chernobyl today. There's still nuclear waste, and that happened decades ago. Just so we understand the scale of how bad a nuclear meltdown is. It's bad. Okay, let's talk about what happened. What happened? It's about 4 a.m, March 28th, 1979, a year after Unit 2 opens. We're in the 2nd unit on 3 Mile Island. It's owned, both reactors are owned by different companies. They're making a lot of money off of it. And the way that nuclear reactors work is they get really hot. The reactor itself gets really hot, and they use something called a steam cooling system. What that means is they run tons and tons of cold water over the reactor, or the chamber that the reactor is in. That chamber is so hot, when the water runs over it, it evaporates into steam, and that in turn cools the reactor down so it doesn't blow up. What happened? After, a regular routine maintenance check, they were cleaning the valve that the water runs through in order to get to the chamber, the nuclear chamber. Valve was stuck closed. Okay, that's nothing crazy. Valves get stuck closed sometimes. For that, they have 3 backups. What happens when the valve gets stuck closed? The emergency valve knows to open. Emergency valve opens, starts cooling the reactor down. Okay, so everything's so good so far. Then an indicator light shows up in the control room. Every single nuclear valve has a control room. If you've been in the Army, you know that every single military base has a war room. Every single nuclear facility has a control room. There are people sitting in it 24/7. If anything goes wrong, there's tons of indicator lights. They know exactly what's going on, what's going wrong. And they can go and fix it. The staff on hand 24/7. What happened? An indicator light went on. The indicator light said that the room where the water goes into to cool the chamber of the reactor chamber down was getting too full of water. You don't want it to get too full of water because then it could clog, then it can overflow, then it can break the systems. You don't want that to happen. So what happened? They opened the staff on hand saw that it was that there was an indicator that the room was getting too full. So they opened the escape valve, the emergency escape valve. So where are we at? The regular valve is stuck closed. The emergency valve is open, and they got an indication that the water was too high, the water levels were too high, so they opened the emergency valve. I hope we are all following where we are in this story. What's going on inside this nuclear reactor. Okay. They open the emergency valve. Water starts flowing out, as it's supposed to. About 20 minutes later, there's a siren for the nuclear reactor overheating. What comes next is a years-long investigation of what happened when the Unit 2, Reactor 2, suffered a partial meltdown. What does that mean? That means the nuclear reactor started melting, the chamber burst open, and if it had gotten any worse, if only like another hour had passed by and no one noticed that something was wrong, we would have witnessed probably the worst nuclear disaster in history. In history. This would not have been just one nuclear reactor exploding. It would have been two, because they're one right next to each other. One would have caused the second one to go off. We're in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, one of the large population spots on the East Coast. We're talking about probably hundreds of thousands of people, lives changed, that would have suffered from nuclear fallout. And that's not to talk about the 10 or 20 mile blast radius that literally explodes everything in that radius. If you're paying close attention to that story, you will have noticed that something doesn't feel right with how the team responded, with how the control room responded to the situation. Because the regular valve was stuck shut. The emergency valve opened, and then the control room team, the staff on hand, they opened the emergency valve. How could the water levels in the reactor possibly have gotten so high if it was only the emergency valve that was sending water in? How could they have possibly gotten too high? It doesn't make any sense. It's not sending that much water in. What was the result of the investigation that ensued was that the control room was so ridiculously complicated and there were so many lights that the staff on hand got confused. It wasn't clear what light belonged to which problem. And that led to one of the worst nuclear failures in history. 6th, 7th worst, something like that. There have been worse ones. On a 7-point scale for nuclear failures, this ranks a 5. 7's the worst. Okay. If we're looking at this from a decision-making standpoint, let's bring it into our lives. What's the failure here? The team did everything right. Everything that they were told to do by the system, they did. They were presented with opportunity. There's a problem. They acted. They acted wrong. It seems like they did everything right. I want to introduce a concept. And it's called, in psychology, the trigger. The trigger is the point in time which you are inspired, you are, pushed to do some sort of action. For example, if there's a car speeding at me, I know that the reaction is get out of the way. That's the trigger. Or even better, when we're crossing the street, the way that we know when it's safe to cross the street is the light turns green. The light turns red. We don't cross the street. That's our trigger. The trigger is the changing of the lights, the color of the lights. What happened here on 3 Mile Island is they had an incorrect trigger. The trigger was wrong. And that led them to doing an action that wasn't the most effective action to do. So here's my question. How can we build triggers in our life that inspire us to do action that's actually beneficial and not action that's, going to blow up a nuclear reactor? Even though most of our lives aren't that high stakes. Maybe some of ours are. I don't know. I don't know what you do for a living. And in order to do that, I want to introduce us all to a guy named Peter Gallwitzer. He's a psychologist, and he came up with the concept called implementation intentions. What's that? Anyone heard of implementation intentions? Okay. Essentially, his model goes like this. He did a bunch of tests on this to see if this actually works. And his conclusion was that it does. Let's say I have a goal, and we're going to go back to the goal of going on a run. I want to go on a run at 6 in the morning. I want to get up early. I want to be healthy. I want to be, push myself. I'm going to go on a run at 6 in the morning. I used to run at 6 in the morning. It was fun. It was cool. It was hard. You don't really run at 6 in the morning unless you know it's hard and you're fine with that. Instead of saying, I want to go on a run at 6 in the morning, I say, I'm going to set an alarm for 6 in the morning. Then I'm going to sit up. Once I sit up, it is now easier for me to get up. Once I'm up, I'm going to put on my shoes. Once I have my shoes on, I'm ready to go out the door. Once I'm out the door, I'm going to go on a run. I'm already there. So my goal isn't go on the run. My goal is when my alarm goes off at 6 in the morning, it's to sit up. Because when I sit up, I cause a chain reaction to happen of events. The events are, alarm goes off, I sit up, I get up, I put on my clothes, I put on my shoes, I walk to the area of the door, I take my phone, I take my keys, I take my headphones, I walk out the door. And once I'm out the door, there is no chance in the world that I'm not going on a run. Anyone here run? You run? Has it ever been hard to run? Like I don't want to go on this run. Have you? So imagine that instead of saying, my goal is to go on a run, instead, you're calling him out, aren't you?
I'm saying it's never hard for him to go on a run. It's very natural.
Okay.
We can have it.
So he's telling us otherwise. So
Would I insult Zach? I don't think so.
imagine that if instead of saying I'm going to go on a run, your goal was I'm going to put my shoes on. Once your running shoes are on, say there's like a 10% chance you're going to go on a run because you're really tired. Your shoes are on now. What do the chances go up to?
Say 50.
Say 50%. Say you walk out the door. Your shoes are on and you're out the door. What are the chances you're going to start running?
98.
There we go. That's implementation intention. Your intention is not, just to break down what the word, the title is, implementation intention. The intention is not, it's not goal intention. The intention is not on the goal. The intention is on the implementation, on how I achieve the goal. So if your intention is to achieve the steps that it takes to achieve your goal, then you're going to be much more likely to achieve your goal. That's implementation intention. Now, this doesn't explain how the scientists and staff at 3 Mile Island could have done better. Most of the reviewers who were on that case agreed, you know what, they couldn't. It wasn't entirely their fault. It was a mix of mechanical error human error, but the human error was very, very difficult to comprehend. This story of implementation intention doesn't tell us how they could have done better, but it does tell us how to change and engineer the triggers in our life in order to help us act in the face of opportunity. You have an opportunity whenever you want to go on a run, you have the desire to go on a run. We're going to talk about desire in a little bit. This is a way that we can implement getting our goals done in a more efficient manner. Awesome. So this is trigger. Last time we talked about fear, we talked about friction, we talked about efficacy, trigger. That's number 4. Number 5. Number 5 is something called obligation. And this is something that I actually really love about living in this country, is that if I see someone fall on the street, I'm going to go help them up. And so are half the other people around. They're all going to go help them up. Or if someone comes up to me and asks for directions, I'm not going to be like, go away, I'm like, this is not my business. I'm going to give them directions. If I'm in New York City, that's not necessarily the case. People are kind of rude there. If someone drops something, if I'm walking and something falls out of my pocket, half the people around me are like, there's a 98% chance someone is going to pick it up and hand it to me. In New York, that's not going to happen. Your wallet falls out of your pocket, you probably lost your wallet. Never happened to me. I've been in New York once in my life.
Didn't like it.
Wasn't a lot of fun. I think it's overrated.
True.
I'm glad you agree with me.
I thought about it.
So this is what we call the bystander's effect. I could tell us the famous story about how the term bystander's effect came to become popular, and it's the story of Kitty Genevieve. You've heard of this story? Yeah. You keep nodding at everything I say, so I can't tell if you actually have heard of everything.
Listening to you.
Or you're listening well.
Wasn't you like taken into an alley and nobody did it?
Yeah, so this is what happened with Kitty. Kitty worked at a...
Pull chairs to the windows to watch again.
Yeah, so Kitty worked at a bar until late at night, worked the night shift, drove home at like 3 a.m, parked her car down the street, and I don't want to say such a gory story, but a guy comes up and starts attacking her, with a knife. And she manages to crawl away. He leaves, comes back a second time, ends up attacking her 3 separate times over the course of half an hour. She crawls into an alleyway. It happens to be that a neighbor was walking by. Kitty dies in her arms right there in the alleyway. Now, from witnesses that were in the area, the report is that they noticed lots and lots and lots of people actually witness this happening. That there were many, many neighbors. The witness reports say there were 30 to 40 neighbors that were actually looking at their windows watching this happen. How many of them called the police? The reports are 0. That's the reports say. Later it was cleared up. Maybe 2 or 3 of them actually did call the police. But out of 40 people, only 2 people calling the police, I'm sure if you saw someone getting attacked outside your window, you would call the police. Most of us would. I certainly would. 40 people see it. The reports are 0 people call the police. And we're talking about this is a street with lots and lots of people going down all the night. There's bars in the area. There's 40 people watching at 2 or 3 in the morning. 1:30, I don't remember exactly what time it was at. That's crazy. And from this story, the bystander's effect became really wildly popular. How can we stand there and see something bad happening to someone else and not go help? So this is number 5. Number 5 is obligation. I'm walking down the street. Someone as walking with their coat, they unzip their coat, their wallet falls out of their pocket. I see that happen, I'm like 30 feet away from them, or 20 feet, or right next to them. I'm faced with an opportunity. There's an opportunity, I can either pick up the wallet, I can take the wallet, I could give back the wallet, I could keep walking and ignore the wallet. Now, most of us in most situations would say, we'll pick up the wallet and return it. That's why I love this country. One of the reasons why I love this country. All of us would pick up the wallet and give it back. Amazing. But this is number 5, obligation. A reason why we might not act in the face of opportunity, it's not for me to do. Someone else is going to do it. There's so many people, to bring up the concept of voting. How many of us voted in last elections?
Which country?
Any country. Okay, so most of us. A bunch of us didn't. I saw like 4 or 5 people not raise their hands. I didn't vote in last elections, for example. And polls are showing that in the United States of America, very small numbers actually of the Gen Z population are voting. Very low voting rates. Why? My vote won't matter. Other people will vote. The people that, the people that are supposed to win will win because enough people will vote. I don't have to do it, other people will do it.
Do we know that's why they don't vote?
There were studies that were done on this, and that was one of the many conclusions.
That's what tends to drive the bystander effect, is the assumption that somebody else has called the police.
Right.
Actually, I had the bystander effect happen to me a week ago.
Yeah.
And one of my first thoughts was, I wonder if Leanne will talk about this, and then I'll share the story. Because I was on a bus coming home from base, and the bus caught fire. And we all had to get out and run into the street. And there were tons of these bags under the bus, and a couple people pull out their bags, and I'm like, okay, everybody start pulling out your bags, and I moved everybody away from the bus. And I'm moving towards all the people, and I'm looking at the bus, and I hear somebody be like, I wonder if the fire department's coming. I'm like, nobody called the fire department. So I just took out my phone and I called the fire department, and nobody had called the fire department. We were like 40, 45 people on this bus, mostly soldiers, and nobody had actually called the fire department. So I ended up managing this whole call with the fire department. They show up in like 3 minutes. They came really, really quickly once somebody called them. They put out the massive fire coming out of the back from the engine. And luckily we were all able to get home safely. But it was a crazy moment of that. It was like, yeah, everybody just figured somebody else probably had called the fire department.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, these guys are taking so long. But nobody had actually gone and called.
Well, you think that the bus driver would take responsibility for that?
I think the bus driver was calling the bus company. Standing right next to the bus. And I had like yelling.
He was lighting a cigarette, yeah.
Yeah, he was probably smoking. He probably lit a cigarette. Yeah.
That's why in CPR training, right, when you're trying to save someone's life, the person who's doing the CPR has to make sure that somebody calls 911 and somebody gets a defibrillator. But you don't shout out,
You don't say
somebody
somebody.
call 911.
So you.
You say,
You.
call 911. You get a defibrillator because then that person will know the responsibilities on their shoulders and not out in the.
I'm glad that we have lots of recent anecdotal evidence for this number one reason. It's a big reason. It's a big one. It's in the top 7. So just to recap what we were talking about, number 1, we had fear. Number 2, friction. Number 3, efficacy. Lack of perceived efficacy, shortened to efficacy. Number 4, we talked about triggers. Number 5, we talk about obligation. There's 2 more, and they're very, very closely related. And this one, we're going to talk about some personal stories. And maybe some of you have personal stories. Because number 5, one we've all been waiting for, desire. 6, you're right, number 6. The 6th one that we've all been waiting for, desire. Desire, I'm going to simplify into 4 words, or 3 words. A reason why I wouldn't act in the face of opportunity, I don't want to. Which, I think, for most of us, is one of the best reasons not to do something. Zach gets up at 6 a.m. every morning and he goes on a run. Or at least he tries to go on a run every single morning. Afternoon? Night. Every night. He tries to. Every single night.
But then he
Avi,
I don't want to.
do you want to go on a run every night?
I don't know, Zach. Have I
Keep
ever
asking
joined you?
you always say no.
Yes or no? Do you want to?
Not even remotely.
Great! That is a fantastic reason why one might not act in the face of opportunity. I don't want to. And this is one of the, and this is,
Once
I just tried my knee.
and this brings us into the topic of motivation. You know, we want to do things or don't want to do things based on whether we're motivated to do them. Two scientists, psychologists, Ryan and Deci, in, I want to say in 1999, that's the year that happened. 1999, they came up with self-determination theory, which is essentially a complicated name for what motivates us. And they broke down motivation into a number of different categories. I'm going to talk about two of the categories today, external motivation and internal motivation. They obviously break those down much, much further. I'm going to talk about those two. What's external motivation? External motivation is things that we do because there is some other reason that's not within ourselves that causes us to want to go on a run. Or internal motivation, I really want to go on a run. It's if there was no one else around, this is one thing that you can figure out. One tool that you can use to know if you have internal motivation for something. If there was no one else around and no one was judging me and no one saw me do it, I'm in my own world, would I do the thing? Zach, if there was no one else around and no one knew that you were going on a run and no one saw you going on a run and there was no reward for going on a run, would you go on a run?
Yeah.
Great. Zach,
no Strava.
no Strava.
Now we're talking. Now
There we go. No Strava. You don't get Strava. You go on a run? Half. There we go. There we go. So now we understand Zach's motivation. Zach's motivation is partly internal, partly external, which is actually, they have Ryan and Deci, they came up with a term for this, which is called integrated motivation. Integrated is like in the middle, is like, I want to go on a run. I also care that my friends see my Strava score and that I went on a longer run than them. And that I go on more runs than them and that my runs were faster, most importantly. Longer and faster, those are the two metrics that really count. So that's integrated motivation. Let's break it down a little bit further. External motivation. External motivation could be a number of things. It can be number one, someone's forcing me to do it. Someone's, points a gun to my head, says, hey, if you don't stack 10 bricks on top of each other and they don't fall over, I'm going to shoot you. That's in one form of external motivation. Another form of external motivation is I'm getting paid for it. I have financial incentives. We all like money. None of us here don't like money. Humans are trained to like money. If I have a financial incentive or something, I might do it even if I don't totally love it. If the pay is big enough, hey, it's money.
That's not half and half. Meaning, you want the money. You're not doing it for anyone else.
No, but I'm doing it for the money.
You're doing it for the money. For
Money is
yourself.
something outside of it.
Money is something outside of myself. Money helps me in all sorts of ways. The things that I like doing are not. I am not money. I don't really like money. Green bills don't actually mean anything to me. It doesn't really matter. The number on my screen doesn't mean anything to me. The fact that I can buy a jet ski with it and that I can ride the jet ski and that's a lot of fun, or I can go out to a steakhouse. That's what's important to me. The fact that I can buy really nice running shoes to go on a run. I want those external things. Therefore, I value this external green paper bill.
So to the degree that you're able to connect what you want with the work that it takes to get it is the degree to which it's going to be internally motivated.
Yes. Well, yeah. If you partially want something because either you enjoy doing it, it brings you pleasure, or you value the outcome, the outcome aligns with your morals, that's intrinsic. Even then, Ryan and Deci would say if it sometimes values and morals, those are actually integrated. They're partly extrinsic. But really what's intrinsic is if I actually gain pleasure from the act itself. Then I do it because I really just want to ride a jet ski. I don't care if someone says, hey, Liam, you want to ride a jet ski? You don't get to take Instagram photos. Of course I'm going to ride the jet ski. I don't care about the Instagram photo. I want to ride a jet ski. Someone says, hey, eat a tomahawk steak. I don't care if there's other people eating with me, if there's anyone watching me. I don't care if I get to take pictures of it. I want to eat the steak. That's intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation are like the things like money, or like I'm going to get a certain outcome, or I might get a promotion. Another one is...
You said beforehand sometimes something intrinsic is just for the outcome itself.
No, that means there's extrinsic. That's what we call integrated motivation, if there's both.
You did kind of say that. You might mean, like, there are internal outcomes, like I want to get stronger, that might still be intrinsic.
That's what we would call integrated.
That would be integrated.
That's integrated motivation.
But even if I'm all alone on a deserted island, I want to be stronger, not because I care about external factors.
Well, do you want to survive longer? You want to be healthy?
But that's not
That's
why it's
internal.
working out.
I'm doing it just to be able to jump really high.
And
Just
do
to
you?
enjoy jumping.
Okay, so this is another
I
one.
wanna say, maybe I don't like the squats. I
Right.
just want to be good at jumping.
So this would fit into integrated motivation. Another case for that would be integrated is I'm trying to achieve a certain outcome for myself, but the action that I'm doing I might not necessarily like, but I'm doing it so I can achieve a certain outcome for myself, which I certainly do like, or will allow me to do things that I like.
So it's more like delayed gratification rather than.
Yeah, things that are like delayed gratification would fall into integrated. Would fall into
Is that
integrated.
Like a hybrid then? Of
It's like a-
intrinsic and
yeah.
ex-
Yeah. So just to recap there's intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, and then integrated motivation, which is in the middle. This is a simplification of Ryan and Decci's model.
What's an example of internal motivation?
Internal motivation, I want to do it. I don't care if there's anyone else around.
Just enjoy it.
I gain pleasure from the act, from the act itself.
Right.
You know,
So you wanting to ride the jet ski, that would be internal?
that would be, yeah,
Okay.
intrinsic motivation.
What would helping others be? Because you're helping others, it makes you feel much better, but it also is, to a certain extent, external validation.
Integrated?
I would say that's probably integrated motivation. We do have a positive hormonal response in the form of joy when we're helping people, but also, it makes us look good. Now, if you were to help people, whether or not it made you look good, for some people, depending on who you are, you might have purely intrinsic motivation to help people. You really, really love people, love helping people. For most of us, it's probably integrated. So that's desire. That's desire, is do I want to do it? Yes? No? I think if you're faced with an opportunity and you can decipher that the reason that you're not doing it is desire, and because you just don't want to do it, I think it's a perfectly valid reason. Not all of these 7 reasons are things that you have to overcome. Like fear, I think you should definitely overcome. Friction, something you should overcome. Lack of perceived efficacy, you should usually overcome. Obligation, something you should overcome. Trigger, something you should figure out how to overcome. Desire, don't force yourself to do things you want to do. Doesn't make sense. And this leads us into our final thing, which is priority. What's priority? Priority is pretty simple. Priority. Actually, let's take a step back a second. I wanna just give you an example that was done in the study for SDT, self-determination theory. They're called those puzzles that are like cubes, kind of like a Rubik's cube. Not a Rubik's cube. They come into pieces. Soma puzzles. Yes, they're called Soma puzzles. Soma puzzles, like the ones that come into pieces. You take it apart into like 6, 7 different pieces, and you have to figure out how to put them back together into a cube. Are we all familiar with this? You all seen this before? Okay. Basically, one of the studies was like this. Took 2 groups of people. One was a control. One he paid. For every single time you solve it, you get paid $5. We're gonna play with it for 20 minutes. We're gonna do 3 rounds. 3 rounds of 20 minutes. In between, there's going to be a 10-minute break each time. And you're going to take apart the puzzle, put it back together. Every time you solve it, you get $5. Great. Other group, he handed them a Soma puzzle, said, hey, we're going to be solving these for 20 minutes in 3 rounds with a 10-minute break. Didn't mention anything about pay. Let them off to it. 20 minutes are up. 10-minute break. What do we think happened during the 10-minute break?
One guy got it like 10 times and one guy was just chilling and enjoying it.
What happened during the 10-minute break was the group that was paid got up and did other things. They had magazines on the table. They had like other forms of entertainment on the table. They opened magazines. They walked around. They talked to each other. The group that was the control group and wasn't being paid anything, what did most of them do during the break? Continue playing with the puzzle. Why? Because playing with puzzles is fun. It's fun to play with puzzles, to take them apart and put them back together. They continue playing with the puzzle. Why? Because they weren't given an external motivation, extrinsic motivation. Now, this is just something very, very interesting about motivation. A lot of times, when we're given an extrinsic motivation to do something, it can stifle our intrinsic motivation. So if there's something that we really, really want to do, and there's a lot of business gurus that talk about this, you should have your business, something that makes you money, and a hobby that you enjoy that specifically doesn't make you money. Because if you really, really like playing music, you're playing piano earlier. You like playing piano? Okay, you like playing piano. I'm going to ask you to put this away. You really like playing piano. If that became your job, and you got paid for playing piano, chances are
I wouldn't like it.
you wouldn't like playing piano on your free time as much. Why? Because it's your job. That's what you're making money from. So these things, when we're getting paid to do something, we have an extrinsic motivation. It can sometimes stifle our intrinsic motivation. So we have to be careful. The things that we like doing, that we don't introduce too much extrinsic motivation, that we continue to do it for the intrinsic motivation. That will lead us to more success in the things that we like doing most of the time. Now we'll go back to number 7. Number 7 is priority. Last one. What's priority? Priority is pretty simple. And I will give you an example of something that happened to me today in the gym. Priority is, I've got this thing that I want to do and this thing that I want to do. I can't do both of them. They're both at 2 p.m. this afternoon, happening at the exact same time in different places. I can't do both of them. I've got to choose either to go hang out with my friend that flew in to see me, and I'd have to take off from work, or I can go to work. And I like my work. I can either go to work or see my friend. I have to choose one. I choose to go see my friend. Why? Because I value that one more. I value that one more. Now, how does this fit into the framework? You're faced with an opportunity. You're actually faced with 2 different opportunities. And in one of them, you're going to say yes to, and the other one you're going to say no to. The reason that you don't act is because you say yes to the one you want more. I think that's number 7, priority, is a very valid reason. You don't have to, it's not something we have to overcome. Priority. But we should understand why we're not doing the second thing. Because sometimes we can start to beat ourselves up about it. Oh, I really should have done this. I'm regretting our decision. I don't want to regret my decision. Understand that in the moment where you have 2 different opportunities, choose one because you value it more. And the other one, no regrets. You didn't do it. You passed on the opportunity. That's fine. So today in the gym, my shoulder has been clicking incessantly over the past week and a half, and it's been hurting. I go to the gym. I want to lift weights. I'm lifting weights. All of a sudden, my shoulder starts hurting me. Great. But I want to lift weights. I really like lifting weights. It's a lot of fun for me. Okay, I can continue lifting. I got 2 options. Either A, I continue lifting weights and risk injuring my shoulder, or B, I stop lifting weights, minimizing that risk. What do I do? I decided, you know what? I'm going to call it. I'm going to stop lifting weights. I prefer my shoulder being healthy than me lifting weights for 20 minutes. It seems like a good trade-off in my eyes. I don't want to hurt my shoulder. No. A lot of times we are faced with many, many opportunities. Some of us have lots of opportunities. Some have Some of us have very few opportunities and need to learn how to find more opportunities. But in life, we're all faced with opportunities. And a lot of times, those opportunities get passed up on. For example, someone came up to me a few months ago, I say 2 months ago, and asked me if I want to model for some clothing company. And I said no, because I didn't want to. Desire. I didn't have the desire to go model for them. But a lot of times, we're faced with opportunities that we actually do desire. And this is the worst. We have lots of things in life that we actually want to do, whether it's related to our relationships or related to our health, whether it's talking to our siblings or our parents more, whether it's having a better relationship with our significant other and being more open, whether it's working out and going on runs so we can stay physically healthy or eating healthy food, whether it's financial and not going out to eat so much, for example, or it could be a positive and working in a more efficient way, or it's different specific hours, working in the morning instead of afternoon so you could be more efficient. And we don't. We have so many opportunities in life. So many opportunities. Days full of opportunities. And a lot of them we pass up on. What I want you to understand from today and from last week, those of you who were here last week, is to realize what it is. What's the catch? What's getting you stuck on not saying yes to this opportunity? First step in everything is awareness. If you're aware of the problem, you can start to diagnose the problem. If you're unaware of the problem, then you're going to be passing through life, missing all these opportunities and having absolutely no idea why. But if we can know why didn't I go to the conference? There was a business conference, I didn't go. Why didn't I go? I don't know. Maybe it was far, there was too much friction. Maybe I got a really bad haircut and I didn't want all the people to see my really bad haircut. And there was an element of fear how people would think of me. Once we can identify the reason why we're passing up on this opportunity, it will make it much easier for us to diagnose and to overcome that opportunity. Now, in these two classes, we didn't go over too much of how to overcome each of these seven things. Working on a model, part 3 will happen at some point. And we're going to go over how to overcome each of these 7 things. But for now, I want to give you the awareness, the diagnosis. And the diagnosis are these 7 things. We have number 1, fear. I'm scared of the outcome. I'm scared of what people will think of me. I'm scared of succeeding. I'm scared of failure. Number 2, friction. Too many steps between where I am now and where I'm trying to get to. Number 3, efficacy. I don't think I'll succeed. I'm not going to do it because I don't think I'll succeed. Is that really a reason not to try? I don't think it's a reason not to try. Most of us really will succeed and we doubt ourselves. So number 3, efficacy. Number 4, trigger. How do I give myself the proper trigger in my life to kickstart my system to doing the actions that will lead me to my goal? Number 5, obligation. It's not for me to do. Someone else is going to do it. Someone else will vote. Someone else will call the fire department. Someone else will call the police. Number 6, and these are the last 2 are the ones that you don't really need to overcome. These ones don't need overcoming. You have desire, I want to or I don't want to. Number 7, priority. I want these 2 things, I want this one more. So fear, friction, efficacy. Trigger, obligation, desire, and priority. I'm going to write these down, all of these down. If you're not in the group chat, the Inspiraction group chat, there's a QR code on the table right over here. There's one on the fridge. You scan the group chat, you scan the thing, you join the group chat. You'll be in the Inspiraction community. I'm going to summarize this whole thing Everything that we talked about, these 7 reasons, you can save it to your notes, you can put it on your home screen, you can put it on your bathroom mirror, I don't care. Do whatever the heck you want with it. But if we have these things in front of our face at all time, it will be much easier for us to diagnose why we don't do things, and will lead us to having a much more efficient and productive life, which we all want. We all want to be efficient and productive. And not doing things is not going to make us more efficient and productive. Doing things is, so you have, again, fear, friction, efficacy, trigger, obligation, desire, priority. These are the 7. These are the big 7. And these will cover roughly 95% of every single opportunity that you have in your life, every single time where you have a decision to make. Yes, no. Or lack of decision, indecision, which is the worst. 95% of them. This will cover it. Now, what we're trying to do with Inspiraction in the coming future is we are trying to build a community of people who have big goals, big achievers, have skills, things that I would like to be coming, that are going to be coming out of Inspiraction's community in the future is partnerships. I know plenty of people here have big ideas. What do they need to achieve it? I need someone who's in marketing, someone who's in sales, someone who develops software. And this is one of the big reasons why actually we don't move ahead with our goals. One of the reasons is friction. I don't have the right people. I don't have the right people. I don't have the right knowledge. I don't have the right mindset. Big ones, I don't have the right people. If you have the right people, it'll make it a lot easier, which is why in a few months' time, we are going to be running a big networking event, a big business conference. We're going to have some very big young Jewish entrepreneurs on a panel. We're going to run a big event. Everyone's going to have a wristband. It's going to be color coded to what you're good at, whether you're in sales, marketing, software, systems, whatever. You have a color coded wristband. Another thing is a lot of us don't have the skills to communicate. A lot of us don't have the skills to have a clear mind, to have clarity of mind. A lot of us don't have the decision-making skills, which is why we're all here today. So what we're going to be doing in a few weeks from now, I think it's 3 weeks from now, on March 12th. I'm not sure if that's the exact date. I think that's the date. We're going to be running a workshop on networking, on effective communication. We're going to call it speed networking. It's going to be like speed dating, but networking, how to communicate efficiently and effectively. We're going to be running a workshop on that. We're going to bring in a master communicator, a good friend of mine, and that's going to be great. We're going to be running more classes like this. If anyone has feedback or has a friend that this community is good for, would be a good fit for, there's the link. You can send them the link. You can reach out to them. You can invite them to events, and welcome to the community. That's it for today.